dan i dobrodošli u ASTROBALANSov čarobni svet astrologije. ASTROBALANS organizuje niz susreta pod nazivom Prijatelji za prijatelje. Danas smo veoma srećni i veoma zahvalni što se naš kolega, astrolog, pa mogu da kažem i prijatelj, odazvao pozivu i došao nam u goste. Danas sa nama je u gostima Richard Fidler, astrolog koji trenutno živi u Velikoj Britaniji. Dobar dan, Richarde.
Hello, Richard. And we are here in ASTROBALANS, in the magical world of astrology of ASTROBALANS. And we are pleased to invite you and be with you in our series of meetings called Friends for Friends. So we are welcome and happy that you're here with us, and very much grateful that you responded to our invitation. So hello, Richard.
Hi, Zorana. Thank you so much, Zorana and Svetlana. It's great to be with you. And I'm very happy to have this opportunity to, engage with you and your Serbian audience.
Thank you, Richard. And u stvari, ajmo na srpskom. Da li možete da nam date prikaz kako ste se vi našli u astrologiji? Šta je to što je vas na neki način iniciralo da zavolite i da krenete uopšte astrologiju?
So can you give us a little insight on how you came across astrology and what exactly was initiated your meeting with astrology, or maybe a fateful meeting?
Well, I was about 15 years old at the time, and a friend of mine from school said, "Hey, I'm going to meet some girls on Friday night, and we get some friends from another school near us." And so we all went, I went with my friend to meet these new friends, and one of them said, "So what's your sign?" And I said, "Surely you don't believe in that stuff. How can there only be 12 kinds of people?" Okay.
Da, Richard kaže da kad je imao 15 godina, prijatelji iz škole su ga pozvali da se posle škole odu na neko druženje još sa nekim devojkama, i kad se pojavio tamo, pitali su ga koji je tvoj znak, a on ih je pitao pa da li je moguće da vi verujete u to.
So then this new friend explained to me that a proper astrological birth chart involves looking at where all the planets were at your birth. And I knew enough about the solar system to, at that moment, get like just a flash of seeing the solar system moving and all the unique cycles. And I realized if this is true, then it means that a birth chart is as specific as a fingerprint.
Da, i ta osoba je objasnila da u trenutku rođenja su planete poređene na tačno određenim mestima, što je meni nekako, koji sam znao dovoljno o svemiru i o planetama u svemiru, dalo nekako prikaz da je to vrlo specifično i da baš u tom trenutku zapravo rođenja te planete se postavljaju na određene pozicije.
So then I borrowed every book this friend had on astrology, and I was reading everything I could. And my mother had Linda Goodman's sun signs on the bookshelf. Every day after school, I read that, every time I met somebody, I read about their sign. And then one day I thought, wait a minute, I think I know which planet rules every sign. Aries is Mars, Taurus is Venus. And I realized, I've been learning without my curiosity is starting to develop into knowledge.
Da, to je pokrenulo da sam nakupovao i snabdeo sa svim mogućim knjigama o astrologiji i čitao puno o tome, a moja majka je imala onu čuvenu knjigu Linde Goodman, Sunčevi znaci, i nakon nekog vremena sam shvatio da zapravo sam ukapirao koje planete vlada kojim znacima, dakle Mars vlada ovnom, Venera vlada bikom i tako dalje, i da sam potpuno nenaporno usvojio sve te pojmove.
So when I was about 19, I was a waiter in a restaurant, and at the time I had a Derek and Julia Parker's Complete Astrology, and it had an ephemeris at the back. and I'd learned how to see which sign the planets were in, but I didn't know what the numbers were, you know. One of my waiter friends said, you know, you're always telling us these things about our charts. Please write a report and we'll pay you. And I said, look, I can't do this. I'm not an astrologer, but they insisted. And
kad sam bio 19 godina, sa 19 godina radio sam kao konobar i došla je do mene ta knjiga na kojoj je na pozadini su bile efemeride. Međutim, ja nisam znao u to vreme da čitam te efemeride, odnosno šta su značili svi ti brojevi. Međutim, prijatelji ili kolege su mi rekli da kako nam uvek sve kažeš kao što jeste, zašto ti to ne napišeš i mi ćemo ti rado platiti za to, što je mene onako, ma daj, kao, da li je moguće da bi nekom da mi platio.
So then, you know, more and more of these commissions came in, and I started to feel like I had a responsibility to start figuring out the detail, like what are these numbers? How do the aspects really work? How do you calculate an ascendant and all of these things? And then, well, like a year or two later, one day I just realized it looks like I'm an astrologer.
Da, i onda je krenuo da istražuje i to je zapravo probudilo odgovornost spram toga šta će ljudima reći i sve više i više se interesovao za to, tako da je zapravo odatle i krenuo to neko pravo interesovanje.
And the rest is history, you know.
Ostalo je istorija. Yes.
Evo još jednog dokaza kako jedan susret ili jedna noć može da promeni čitav život, koliko su odnosi u stvari važni, interakcija sa drugim ljudima, jer nekako mi imamo te ugovore, da kažem, koje sklapamo sa drugim ljudima i koji u nekom trenutku se pojave u našem životu baš kad treba i na neki čudesan način promeni čitav tok našeg života.
Okay, so this is a kind of a proof that certain moments in our lives, like the night that you attended the certain occasion, can change our life forever. And it is somehow a show of some kind of a relationship or a synastry that happens in a certain moment. And showing how our life can take a turn, actually in connection with others.
And absolutely. And, you know, for a time I thought, oh, maybe it was just an accident that had happened in my life, you know, that maybe I just became an astrologer by accident in this way. But the more time went by, I realized not everybody would necessarily have responded with the same curiosity that I had. You know, obviously, there was something in me that just needed a little spark, and then it was a flame, you know.
Da, nije jednostavno, ne bi svako reagovao na isti način, ali kako je vreme prolazilo, on je sve više video da njega to zapravo konzumira, da ga interesuje i sve više ga je nekako podsticalo da se udubi u to i da što više istražuje.
Da, i znamo da astrologija menja živote, kao što je promenio i Zoranin život i moj život, jer učenjem astrologije mi upoznajemo sebe, ljude oko sebe, svet oko sebe. Možeš li, Richarde, da nam kažeš ili da nam ukratko opišeš kakav je tvoj život bio pre i posle astrologije? To jest, u kojoj meri ti je pomogla da u životu upoznaš sebe, stekneš nova iskustva, nove prijatelje i
we are witnessing that astrology is changing our lives. The same way it changed mine or Svetlana's or yours. So can you tell us a little bit more about how it changed your life? And how do you perceive yourself before and after getting into astrology?
Well, just before I got into astrology, I was like in nappies, basically. I was so young at the time, you know. So in a way, it's not like you know, some people get into astrology later in life, you know, and then they've developed more of their personality and their worldview, you know, before they meet astrology. So maybe for some of those people, there's a bigger change, you know. But maybe I should say for myself that, like, as I mentioned before, my first response was, surely you don't believe in that stuff. How can there only be 12 kinds of people? So I think that I'm generally quite a skeptical person, but astrology made me, to this day, it's still continuing to, impress upon me the way everything is so closely interconnected in the universe. So it's made me much more, it's made me look at life a lot less superficially.
Pa on je ušao u astrologiju vrlo mlad, znači sa 15 godina. I tada je prosto bio, nije verovao u to, kaže, da li hoćeš da mi kažeš da postoji 12 vrsta ljudi? Mislim, što je za njega u to vreme bilo prosto neverovatno. Međutim, postoji ljudi koji uđu u astrologiju dosta kasnije, znači već i u nekom možda zrelijem dobu, i zapravo dešava se da prosto budu uvučeni ili da ih astrologija na taj način nekako otvori prema svemu onom što se dešava okolo.
Da, znači možemo da zaključimo da nije baš bila velika razlika, je tako, pre i posle, obzirom da ste vrlo rano ušli u taj svet astrologije.
So it seems there hasn't been a big difference before and after you step into astrology because you were quite young.
Exactly,
so
as I said.
Somehow it came naturally, like you were kind of developing yourself through astrology or with the help of astrology. Praktično se razvijao uz pomoć astrologije.
Da. Pa dobro, da li bi mogao nešto da nam kažeš o razvoju kolektivne svesti, a na koju zapravo utiče nivo svesti i pojedinca?
Yes. Well, can you, if you want to add something from before?
No, I just want to confirm that, yes, it was, as I said, some people get into it later in life when their worldview has already developed very elaborately. For me, I think I was just starting to try to understand the world on a philosophical level. And so astrology became part of that understanding quite early, in my teens, as I started to sort of search for meaning in life.
Da, pa neko dođe kasnije kada je već ostvarena, on je nekako u svojim tinejdžerskim godinama zapravo ušao u tu neku filozofiju i istraživanje i to mu je dosta pomoglo da se razvije. Okay, so the next question, as Svetlana posed, was what's your understanding of development of collective consciousness, which is actually influenced by the level of consciousness of individuals, right? So how do you see that? Can you give us your perspective on that?
All right, that's quite a deep question, quite a complicated question. The relationship between individual consciousness and collective consciousness. One of the first things I think I would say about this is that, in Africa or Southern Africa, there's a word, Ubuntu, which means that a person is a person because of other people. Okay.
Da, to je vrlo kompleksno pitanje i možda bi trebalo dosta vremena da se to objasni, a u Južnoj Africi, gde sam ja živeo, postoji reč Ubuntu, koja u stvari znači da su ljudi onakvi kakvi su ljudi oko njih.
But there's certain spiritual teachings that influenced me a lot in my late teens and early 20s, based on the teachings of a certain Tibetan master. And what he said about these things influenced me a lot. And it emphasized this idea that in the first stage of our evolution, as individuals, we're just learning to be skillful, we're learning to create a whole personality of, physical, emotional, and mental coordination. But once we've become a dynamic and effective individual, the next stage is to surrender that power to get your own way towards a higher collective purpose.
Da, kad sam bio tinejdžer, dosta je na mene uticalo to tibetansko učenje, gde oni kažu da na početku i u tom prvom periodu odrastanja mi zapravo usvajamo to neko mentalno, emotivno i psihičko razvijanje, da bi kasnije zapravo to dovelo do toga da realizujemo sopstveno, a nekako odbacimo ono što nam ne prije.
And according to that model, once the personality has become coordinated and skillful, it then needs to establish an alignment with the soul. But now what's important about this is that according to those teachings, the soul on its own level is group conscious.
Da, on kaže da u tom formiranju ličnosti se stvara ta veza sa dušom, a duša je zapravo ono što pripada kolektivnoj svesti.
And, this idea of the soul being group conscious is actually very profound because it helps us to understand why it is that when we hurt other people, our own soul, because it doesn't distinguish between us and everybody else, we lose alignment with our own soul. So we don't get punished so much by God, so to speak, but we get punished because we lose alignment with our own soul.
Da, zanimljivo je to jer to je zapravo dokaz kada recimo možda se povredimo nekoga, mi ne dobijamo kaznu od Boga ili neke više svesti, nego zapravo se loše osjećamo zato što je poravnanje sa tom grupnom svešću u toku.
And for this reason also, when an individual dedicates themselves to service of the collective, it also then means that they manage to access guidance, power, and spiritual support from the whole family of souls.
Da, i šta se dešava kada se ljudi posvete nekom kolektivnom ili socijalnom programu ili nečemu što ima veze sa drugim masama, sa velikim masama ljudi, jeste da on zapravo prima na sebe tu energiju koja praktično prolazi kroz njega, a ima veze sa kolektivnom svešću.
And in my understanding, that then makes it possible for people who have dedicated themselves in this way often to have much greater impact in the world than other people. So one person who's gone through these stages of evolution can have a much bigger impact than tens of thousands of people who have not made that alignment.
I stoga postoje ljudi koji su postigli to i koji imaju mnogo jači uticaj na mase ljudi jer su postigli to poravnanje i imaju mnogo jači uticaj na mase ljudi. Znači, jedan čovek koji može da ima veći uticaj na mase ljudi nego možda stotine nekih koji nisu postigli to poravnanje.
So it's really my understanding that service is really the pathway to personal evolution, but it also is the thing that gets us into the right alignment with collective, the collective reality.
Po mom mišljenju je služenje ili biti u službi većini ili mnogima zapravo put do tog poravnanja.
So in conclusion, and I don't know if I'm responding correctly to the question, but in conclusion, coming back to the Ubuntu statement that a person is a person because of other people, essentially what I'm saying is to find your individual path. The way to do that is not just to think about what you want and what you think you're fantastic at, is also to look at what are your responsibilities on all the different layers of your social involvement and to try to meet those responsibilities.
Da, i po njegovom skromnom mišljenju nada se da je odgovorio na ovo pitanje, a podsjeća na taj pojam Ubuntu gde je čovek, odnosno osoba je ono čime je okružena, jel? To je zapravo i da taj put koji svako od nas bira nije ono ja sam fantastičan, ja sam ovakav, ja sam onakav, nego se zapravo radi o tome imati svest o grupi ili o celini ili o doprinosu grupi gde se na taj način zapravo i podiže svest. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
And there's one other thing, I think we sometimes underestimate how powerful our thoughts and our emotions are. And when people have learned to use their minds and their emotions in a constructive way, then their thought forms, the ideas they have, actually have the power to influence many other people's minds. The ideas that we put out into the world, other people tap into those ideas. So the way people influence the world and influence the world via the collective is also through that process of personal evolution that enables people's thoughts to have a far greater coherence. But this takes us to the realm of invisible things, auras and chakras. So we're on the edge of the twilight zone, when we talk about this.
Okay. You're going to help me out with this one because it's been a pretty long. So,
okay, sorry.
No, that's fine. Dakle, kada bi se ljudi posvetili tome da nekako drugačije kreiraju ili da budu svesni nekih svojih briljantnih ideja koje dele i emocija koje stoje u tome, onda bi stvari se menjale i na tom kolektivnom. Can you repeat the last part, just the last sentence, kind of a conclusion?
I might
missed it. Oh, it's gone.
There's so many threads to that.
Yes.
But I think that the primary thought there was, the fact that when people have established or achieved a certain stage of growth and evolution, the power of their thoughts is much greater than when people have not achieved that. So this is why I was saying, like it's even been said that, for example, Jesus or the Buddha, like you could see their auras from 1,000 miles away. Like sometimes one person who's lit up is like a candle in the darkness. Just one candle lights up the darkness for many, many people.
Kada ljudi dođu do određenog nivoa prosto svoje sopstvene evolucije, oni kao da zrače na neki način, jer tu sad se postavljaju pitanja čakri i aura i tako dalje. I kao što su rekli za Isusa ili za Budu, da prosto se iz daljine se videlo koliko je njihova ta aura ili ono kako oni zrače vidljivo, to je zapravo i prikaz da jedna osoba može nekako da osvetli ili da probudi mase ili veliki broj ljudi i to je upravo ta priča o nekom o kolektivnoj svesnosti. Yes, thank you. Yeah, that's nice.
I ja bih samo ovako dodala nešto kada govorimo o kolektivnoj svesnosti, da bi se povezali sa kolektivnom svešću, treba prvo da se povežemo sa samim sobom. Zapravo, ako razmišljamo o tom ubuntu, a mi smo u sredini, ono što je bitno je najpred uradimo poravnjanje sa samim sobom. To jest da kažemo, da otkrijemo šta mi zapravo jesmo. Ko smo to mi? Da mi podignemo naš nivo svesti. I u velikoj meri u tome nam pomaže astrologija. Kao način upoznavanja sebe, svojih mogućnosti, svojih talenata, svojih darova i svega onoga što mi možemo da podelimo sa svetom i da budemo taj, da kažem, sveće ili ta svetlost koja će proširiti i na sve ostale. Dakle, najpre treba da upoznamo sebe i da budemo poravnati, to jeste dobri sa samim sobom.
Yes, Svetlana was saying that in order to reach that higher consciousness, first we have to kind of be in peace with ourselves and to know who we are. Because without it, we cannot contribute. We cannot find out and be aware of what's going on. And in that pursuit of finding who we are, actually, astrology is a great, I would say, a vehicle. We can, through astrology, actually find our ways, discover ourselves, because it's not about determination of our life. It's actually about making choices. And through astrology, we actually are kind of introduced to ourselves. We are not something that, oh, I'm the only one thinking this way, and be ashamed of it, or hiding your own feelings, but finding out that that's your personality, that's coming out of you for a reason. I samo da kažem da zapravo da se nadovežem na ovo što je Svetlana rekla, zašto je astrologija put? Pa upravo zato što se kroz nju mi u stvari upoznajemo sami sa sobom i prepoznajemo da negde određene pozicije nisu i ono što mi osjećamo unutar sebe, jao, pa samo ja mislim tako ili samo se meni to događa, da zapravo prepoznajemo da smo posebni upravo zbog toga što se na određeni način osjećamo ili razmišljamo i da je to naš poseban dar.
Sledeće pitanje bi bilo vezano za vrlo aktuelnu situaciju, to jest tranzit, Plutonov tranzit i konačni ulazak u Vodoliju. Plutona vezujemo i sa dušom iz koncepta evolutivne astrologije, a malo pre Richard pomenuo jedno, i dušu, i evoluciju, i kolektiv, i sve to možemo povežemo sa Plutonom. Dakle, Plutonov konačni ulazak u Vodoliju je jedan od glavnih astroloških datuma. Pluton će tu ostati sve do 2043. godine, a znamo da poslednji put kad je Pluton napustio Vodoliju 1798. godine je bio period koji je promenio pravac u istoriji čovečanstva i dešavali su se neki važni događaji, između ostalog tu je bila i Francuska revolucija. Da li biste mogli da podelite svoje razmišljanja ili uvide o tome i da li je Pluton uopšte razmatrate imajući u vidu da se vi bavite i vedskom astrologijom?
Okay, so this next question is about final Pluto's entry into Aquarius, which is one of the major astrological dates, and everybody is talking about it. It's a big topic, and it will remain there until 2043. So it's a huge amount of time to implement on everybody's lives, right? So the last time Pluto was in Aquarius was an exit. Aquarius was 1798. So we know it was a game-changing period in the history of mankind with very important dates, such as the French Revolution. So our question would be, would you mind sharing your thoughts about insights on the matter, knowing that you are also a Vedic astrologer and you're practicing both Vedic and Western astrology. So how do you perceive that, knowing that the Pluto is in evolutionary astrology is considered to be the soul? And you were just talking about the soul.
Okay, well, there are a few different thoughts there, a few complicated, well, not complicated, but a few different layers. Okay. Let me start with the issue with the Vedic astrology, right? It's true that some Vedic astrologers don't even use Pluto at all, okay? And I'm not one of those. I do use Pluto. But then there's another conundrum, which is the zodiac question, the tropical versus the sidereal zodiac question, okay? Now,
sorry.
Yeah, just, go ahead. Yes.
I know you are in a row, but it takes a little bit more time difficult to explain.
Yes.
Well, there is a few, postoji nekoliko, znači, tema koje ovde možemo da razmatramo i da, ja se bavim i vedskom i zapadnom astrologijom. I postoje vedski astrolozi koji razmatraju Plutona ili ga uopšte ne uzimaju u obzir, ja ga uzimam u obzir. Međutim, postoji i druga priča, a to su tropski i sideralni zodijak, koji se bitno razlikuju i gde takođe postoji razlika po pitanju pozicije Plutona.
Okay, so although I normally use the sidereal zodiac, in which Pluto is not entering Aquarius, okay, I do have a certain view on the tropical zodiac. I don't think that the tropical zodiac is wrong. I think I often say that the tropical zodiac should be viewed as solar houses.
Da, ja koristim sideralni zodijak u kome Pluton još uvek ne ulazi u Vodoliju, ali takođe koristim i tropski zodijak i njega, ne kažem da je bilo koji od njih ispravan ili pogrešan, ali to je moje viđenje da je tropski zodijak zapravo onaj koji pokazuje solarne kuće.
And when I say that, what I mean is we know that the tropical zodiac's reference point or origin point is the sun's position at the equinox. So one of the reasons I believe there is something important about the tropical zodiac is because basically all the sign cusps of the tropical zodiac are places from which aspects are formed to the equinox. So Pluto entering Aquarius, in my view, is basically Pluto sextile equinox.
Da, znamo da tropski zodijak se bazira na osnovu pozicije ekvinoksa, odnosno nula ovna, i da se u odnosu na tu tačku formiraju i sve ostale pozicije. Sa moje tačke gledišta, pozicija Plutona koji ulazi u Vodoliju zapravo pravi sekstil sa tom pozicijom nula ovna ili pozicijom ekvinoksa u tropskoj karti.
Or a slightly different way of saying it is that Pluto is entering the 11th house of the world.
Ili da kažemo na drugačiji način, da Pluto ulazi u 11. kuću sveta.
While being in the sign Capricorn.
Dok je bio u znaku Jarac.
And so I do think that.
You mean the 11th house when enters Aquarius, but it was in Capricorn. It was in the 10th house.
Yes. And you know, there's a period of time in the last 6 degrees of the tropical zodiac where it's in the same sign in both zodiacs. You know,
I postoji pozicija gde poslednjih 6 stepeni zapravo se preklapaju te pozicije zodijaka, sideralnog i tropskog.
So I actually see the 0 degrees tropical Aries, I see that as the ascendant of the world.
Tako da ja tih 0 stepeni u tropskoj karti zapravo vidim kao ascendent sveta.
So when we say that we're in the age of Pisces, the entire astronomical basis of the age of Pisces is the fact that the equinox is in the constellation of Pisces. So it's like saying the world's ascendant now is Pisces.
Tako da kada kažemo da je vreme riba, to u stvari govori da je ekvinoks, odnosno ta pozicija svetskog, da kažem, ascendenta bila u ribama.
Now, regarding the Aquarius symbolism, if you like, or 11th house symbolism of, you know, Pluto's ingress into Aquarius, you know, I think that it's very significant that as Pluto's entered into Aquarius, we've got, you know, this theme of censorship coming up in the world. Like there's a lot of sort of it's almost like there's an attempt to control people's thinking to a great degree because, you know, Aquarius is the sign opposite Leo. Leo is the formal, you know, the formal authority. Aquarius has always been a bit revolutionary like this. So I think that this is why that fits very closely with the French Revolution. You know, it was also a process whereby the collective people started asking themselves, something's wrong here. We actually have power that we can use to free ourselves, but the people in authority will not like that. And I think we're having exactly that sort of story happening today.
Da, kada je Pluton zakoračio u Vodoliju, mi zapravo vidimo da je došlo do pojave velike cenzure, odnosno uskraćivanje prava za iskazivanje sopstvenog mišljenja, što je otprilike može da se poveže i sa Francuskom revolucijom, kada su zapravo videli da tu nešto nije u redu, jer je nastao velika razlika između kraljevske pozicije i običnog naroda. I would say that the people finally realize they make the country, they make the nation.
Right.
It's not the royalty. And especially because the royalty was in excessive behavior. And the people were kind of barely meeting ends, having to survive. Jer zapravo se radi o tome da je nastala velika razlika između velikog bogatstva u plemstva i običnog čoveka koji je jedva nekako sastavljao kraj sa krajem, dok se plemstvo prilično razbacivalo.
Aquarius's glyph is those wavy lines, and we know that in the body, the sun is the heart, but Aquarius is the entire vein system, the circulatory system. So I've always associated Aquarius with the media and with the channels of communication within society.
Znamo da je simbol Vodolije su talasići, jel? A da je srce koje je u simbolici lava, koje se nalazi naspram znaka Vodolija, ono koje pumpa krv u sistem, a Vodolije su zapravo krvni sudovi, odnosno sistem koji prolazi kroz celo telo, tako da doživljavam Vodoliju kao onu koja je zaslužna za komunikaciju.
I mean, and if you look at what's been happening lately, you had Elon Musk buying Twitter to save free speech, then Twitter getting banned in Brazil, for example, the owner of Telegram getting arrested in France, and even TikTok is now, they want to ban it in America. So there's and why I'm pointing to these things is because where you find Pluto, you often have this theme of power, wielding power. Like there's a lot of power in communication. And because there's so much power in communication, those who have power are also trying desperately to control it. So there's a big battle in the world. In my view, Pluto Aquarius sort of means this.
I kako mi to vidimo sada? Recimo, Elon Musk je kupio Twitter, potom je Twitter, sada mreža X, zabranjena u Brazilu, pa je uhapšen vlasnik Telegrama, pa imamo sada probleme sa TikTokom. I šta se tu zapravo dešava? Dešava se da velika moć, zapravo koliko god da žele da daju komunikaciju ili predaju komunikaciju na kolektivu, tu postoji, gde god je velika moć, postoji i potreba za kontrolom. I to je upravo ono što se sada dešava.
There's one more thing I think that's important to remember, is that the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in 2020 occurred at 0 degrees Aquarius. And so never mind zodiacs even, just the fact that conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn happened at 0 degrees Aquarius, and that we've got Pluto crossing over that degree now. This is also very important because it's telling us that Pluto's current position is also sort of stimulating a lot of these powerful, collective social processes that started in 2020. In many respects, the world's craziness now is actually just 2020 really showing its hand.
Exactly. It's like in a magnifying, under the magnifying glass, right?
Yes.
Zapravo, ne treba da zaboravimo da je 2020. bila velika konjunkcija, takozvana velika konjunkcija Jupitera i Saturna na 0 Vodolije. I sada Pluton tranzitira tim stepenom ponovo preko nula vodolije, on je išao nazad, napred i tako dalje, ali to je upravo sada situacija kada se razmotava ili kada se na jedan vidljiviji, bitno kao uveličan, kroz neko uveličano staklo, jasnije vidi taj civilizacijski pomak, jer su Jupiter i Saturn, odnosno na njihove konjunkcije, označavaju civilizacijske pomake ili stepenice. I'm saying that Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions are civilizational milestones, and that whenever it's happening, we can expect quite a change on the civilization level.
And, you know, with things like Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions that are so important in bigger cycles of social transformation, all too often, by the time you really start to see the effect, people forgot about the thing that actually was showing this, you know?
Exactly, da. Kada se ovo dešava, odnosno kada se dešavaju ove konjunkcije Jupitera i Saturna, one ostanu nekako onako, dobro, desile su se, ali ljudi zaborave na njih. Međutim, treba ih imati u vidu jer oni su zaista veliki prekretnici.
Yeah, so if people want to, and you know, when people ask, you know, what's going on in the world now? Well, the thing is, go back to 2020, because that was when the Pandora's box opened, and the little bad fairies are still flying out of that box.
Da, kad ljudi pitaju šta se sada dešava, zapravo moj komentar je ajde se vratimo na 2020. Kada je zapravo otvorena ta čuvena Pandorina kutija i sada ovo što se dešava je samo ono što izleće iz nje sve vreme.
Zahvaljujemo na odgovoru. Sada dolazimo do momenta kada ćemo vam otkriti veliko iznenađenje. Dakle, Richard, pored toga što je astrolog koji, da kažem, na svetskog glasa, je tako, i radi konsultacije, Richard često drži kurseve i webinare. Ovoga puta nam je učinio to zadovoljstvo i pružio priliku da organizujemo jedan webinar na temu praktični vodič u astrologiji odnosa. Pa možete li da nam rasvetlite tu temu?
Da. We are pleased to host you here, but there is something else that we want to announce, and also to inform our audience and your audience as well, that you as astrologer are often organizing certain webinars or teachings. And this time we are announcing your webinar that's going to be organized in coordination with the ASTROBALANS School of Astrology and yourself, which is going to be under the name of Sensible Astrology.
Sensible Synastry.
Sensible Synastry, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. And that is going to be your presentation about how do you see and practical ways of comparing astrological charts in relationships.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm very excited about this because I found that in the past sort of year or two, I had a few aha moments, you know, regarding synastry. And I feel it's led to me developing a quite a specific new, not just set of techniques, but even a philosophy of sorts, you know, around this particular topic of synastry. Do you want to translate that first before I...
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. Yeah. Pa u poslednjih nekoliko godina ja sam nekako došao do nekih posebnih uvida ili posebne neke filozofije koja zapravo se odražava na moje tumačenje karti u uporednoj sinastriji ili u odnosima.
Because, you know, one of these aha moments that I had that's come from years of practice and looking at many charts and charts of people in relationships, one of these aha moments was the fact that the things that generally cause problems in relationships are the psychological problems individuals have more than the fact that the two charts didn't meet perfectly.
Jedno od onih aha momenata ili ono kada vam sine zapravo ideja ili spoznaja, možemo i tako nazvati, u tumačenju karate i brojnih karata, kako klijenata, tako i istraživanja, jeste da u odnosima zapravo najveći problem stvaraju individualni psihološki ili psihički problemi ili kako se osoba, kakav je njen taj psihološki, rekla bih, otisak ili psychological profile of the person. Taj psihološki profil osobe je onaj koji uzrokuje najviše problema.
You know, because it easily happens in astrology generally, not just in the context of relationships, that as one gets into more and more advanced techniques, there's the danger that you start to fail to see the elephant in the room sometimes. You know, sometimes the basics get ignored while you are picking the eyebrow of the elephant, you're forgetting that its foot is on your...
Da, ono što se dešava zapravo u astrologiji je da kako učite nove i nove tehnike, vi se sve više fokusirate na nove tehnike, a nekako kao da zaboravljate ono što je glavni princip ili kao što se u engleskom kaže ne vidite slon prisutan, nego analizirate njegovu obrvu ili njegov deo, a niste svesni celine.
So in this synastry course or webinar, I want to make sure I highlight some of the most important of these patterns that you find in individual natal charts to begin with. And then also another important part of this is studying the significance of life cycles in the charts of individuals and the way cycles affect the relationship.
Ono što želim na ovom webinaru da istaknem, to je koje su to glavne osobine u svakome koje zapravo karakterišu i koje utiču na sam odnos, ali takođe bih hteo da naglasim o temu životnih ciklusa, odnosno koliko su ti ciklusi važni kada različite osobe prolaze kroz te cikluse.
And when it comes to the actual synastry, the actual comparison of two charts, again, there's an approach I want to share that is not, every experienced astrologer will realize that it's sensible, even though it wasn't formalized, and that is giving focus to the ascendant, Sun, Moon, and Venus as the basic foundation of synastry, because all too often, people just treat every planet as if it's got the same weight in synastry, but that's not true. Those core things have got much greater weight than other factors.
Da, i kao što znate u sinastriji ili u poređivanju karata, mnogi koriste različite tehnike. Ono na čemu ja insistiram to je ascendent, mesec i Venera, ascendant, moon and Venus.
Yeah, sun, moon, ascendant, Venus.
I sunce, koji su naglašavajući faktori, jer vrlo često se tretira da u sinastriji ili uporednoj sinastriji sve planete ili svi aspekti imaju jednaku težinu. On smatra da to nije tako i da treba zapravo naglasak staviti na ascendentu, suncu, mesecu i Veneri.
For example, every astrologer who's been practicing for any period of time will have noticed how often it is that couples who've got a sun-moon conjunction, for example, between the two charts, how often you find that, you know, and when you see it, you just know that this is not an accident. This is the center of gravity in that relationship. And so in many respects, the technique I'm trying to present, or I'm going to be presenting in terms of the synastry, is how to find the center of gravity between in the synastry. You know, and so that we're not just treating everything more or less like it's the same. We want to see where's the main channel in that relationship, because that's always going to be the spine, you might say, of that whole relationship.
Pa svi astrolozi koji rade sinastriju ili uporedne karte u odnosima su svesni toga da je pojava kada jedna osoba ima sunce, a druga mesec na istom stepenu i da to, moramo reći, nije slučajnost. Znači, to je kao neka sila privlačenja, nešto što ih nekako drži slepljene. I cela stvar je u tome na ovom webinaru će biti kako da istražimo koje su to sile privlačenja koje zapravo održavaju taj odnos i čine da taj odnos traje.
So, you know, the goal here is to develop an approach to synastry that is holistic and that takes, you know, all the essential things into consideration, the individual psychological patterns, you know, the seasons of life. Relationships aren't even on the cards for us all the time. You know, there are times in life when relationships are important. And then also when it comes to the synastry, sifting the wheat from the chaff, making sure we don't lose sight of the things that are really important.
Da, želim da prikažem ovu sinastriju kao jedan holistički pristup, znači celovit pristup odnosima, gde se ne radi samo o tome imati odnos, jer nekim ljudima prosto nije ni dato, oni nemaju neke odnose, nego da negde ovde prosejemo ono što se kaže žito od kukolja i da na neki način otkrijemo koje su to zapravo one najvažniji pokazatelji.
Jel mogu jedno pitanje sada?
Of course.
Richard je na početku pomenuo da je u stvari ono što je on otkrio da je najvažnije sam psihološki profil jedne ličnosti. Što znači da negde na ovom kursu ili webinaru će nam objasniti i, kako da kažem, natalne karte pojedinca, znači da je to nešto mnogo šire nego samo astrologija odnosa, u tom nekom smislu. Znači, mi ćemo na neki način tu čuti od njega kako će on taj psihološki profil pojedinačnoj karti istomačiti pa povezati sa drugom.
Okay, as you were talking that actually relationship is very much connected with the psychological profile of each person or each individual. So is your explanation going to go through first explaining the psychological portrait of a single person? And what is it that you first take a look at? And how it's then incorporated into synastry, into explanation of the relationship between two people?
Well, as I said, you know, it became clearer to me over time that the things that really help or hinder people's ability to have a good relationship is the individual chart. And then the more I thought about it, I realized the single most important thing is the moon. You know, if the moon is damaged in a chart, then the basic capacity to trust, to form bonds, to create a home, to care for others, to care for self, if this basic function is damaged, then it doesn't help at all to have wonderful synastry with someone.
Da, ono što sam otkrio u ovome jeste da je ključni ili presudni faktor u odnosima mesec i da je on zapravo onaj koji govori o tome koliko ćemo se prepustiti, koliko ćemo emocija dati, kako ćemo kreirati dom. I bez obzira ako gomila drugih stvari u karti pokazuje neko savršenstvo ili harmoniju, ako ovaj mesec nije, odnosno ako je oštećen, jel, na bilo koji način, bit će teško i da se uspostave harmonični odnosi.
Because it's also true that some people, to use a simple example, someone with a moon-Jupiter conjunction or something like this, some people can actually harmonize with almost anyone. You know,
da, jer činjenica je da postoje ljudi koji, recimo, ako imaju mesec Jupiter, mogu da se usklade sa svima. Oni uopšte nemaju problem ni sa kim, nemaju problem u odnosima.
So, just to come back to Svetlana's question there about how does this get incorporated into the synastry? You know, in this method, using these 4 key factors, the sun, moon, ascendant, and Venus, you know, if you don't have a certain basic amount of connection there, probably there's not going to be a relationship, you know, and these psychological factors tell us what are going to be the things that have to be worked on by the couple. If they've got a certain basic amount of viable synastry, okay, there's a chance, but it's not a guarantee. The thing that's going to guarantee success is how the individual's main psychological issues are dealt with.
Kao što sam rekao, ono što razmatram to je ova 4 faktora, ascendent, sunce, mesec i Venera, i kako god da su oni postavljeni, mora da postoji neka harmonična, neka veza između njih, i kada se uklopi sa drugim, bez obzira kakvi su odnosi, to samo daje priliku da postoji šansa za vezu, ali to ne znači da će ta veza biti na dugotrajnom, na dugom štapu, ili da će se eventualno i kreirati, jer sve zavisi zapravo od tog individualnog psihološkog profila svake osobe.
Hvala, Richarde. Još jedno pitanje, da li je neophodno astrološko znanje? Da li mogu i početnici, oni koji su tek krenuli da uče astrologiju, da prate ovaj webinar?
Thank you, Richard. And the additional question is, does the attendants need to have a previous astrology knowledge attending your course? And how would you,
I think I understand what you...
Yes, you get it. Yeah.
Well, look, to be honest, if they have absolutely zero knowledge of astrology, it's going to be a little bit tricky, because it's not, but people who have learned, especially how to use aspects in Western astrology, just good basic knowledge of aspects, is a very good foundation. You know, when people know more or less how aspects work, I think they can follow this, because actually the things I'll be teaching, for the most part, are not going to be very complicated, extremely advanced principles of astrology. But actually, because, you know, sometimes actually what is most advanced is not always the most complicated.
Yes.
Da, hoću da kažem da za one koji apsolutno ništa ne znaju o astrologiji, ovo nije preporučljivo, odnosno nije nešto što bi oni možda mogli da isprate. Međutim, za one koji imaju solidno znanje ili su savladali aspekte, što podrazumeva i znanje o planetama ili karakteristikama planeta, za njih će ovo biti veoma korisno. Takođe, hoću da kažem da ovo webinar neće biti nešto komplikovano, i moram da kažem da ono što je veoma napredno često je i vrlo jednostavno.
Da, u tom slučaju, eto, da poželimo onda dobrodošlicu svima koji su zainteresovani, početnicima u astrologiji i naravno našim dragim kolegama astrolozima, gde mogu da kroz ovaj webinar dođu do nekih novih uvida, novih zaključaka, jer mi uvek volimo, mi astrolozi, uvek volimo da saznajemo nešto novo, drugačije, da čitamo nove knjige, pa evo prilike da nam Richard prenese svoje iskustvo.
Yes, thank you, Richard. And this is something that we are calling all our colleague astrologers to join us and attend your webinar, because as astrologers, we are always curious about how the other astrologer is looking at certain positions or certain discussions regarding astrology. So we are calling them to join us at your webinar, which is going to take place online on the 16th and 17th of November this year. It's going to last for about 5 hours each day from 3 in the afternoon till 8 at night. It's going to be translated. It's going to be in Serbian and in English at the same time. So we are calling everybody interested to join us. And the further information about this, they can find on your website. It's going to be on our Instagram and social media. And whoever is interested can reach you, either you directly or us as ASTROBALANS on our email addresses and social media. Dakle, samo da kažem da pozivamo sve koji su zainteresovani, i kao što je Svetlana rekla, i kolege, i učenike, i zaljubljenike, i one koji se interesuju za astrologiju. Ovo će biti veoma interesantan webinar ili radionica na kojoj ćete dobiti veoma značajne uvide i objašnjenja. I da kažemo da će webinar biti 16. i 17. novembra sa početkom u 3 sata popodne do 8 uveče. Biće na engleskom i na srpskom jeziku preko Zoom platforme i svi koji žele mogu da se prijave ili direktno kod Richarda ili kod nas preko ASTROBALANS socijalnih mreža ili preko naših e-mail adresa i dobit će detaljna uputstva.
Zahvaljujemo se Richardu na izdvojenom vremenu, zahvaljujemo se još jednom na tome što će nam ponuditi, unapred se radujemo i jedva čekamo da vidimo šta će to još lepo da nam Richard sve ispriča.
Richard, thank you for your time and for being so kind, explaining and sharing your thoughts with us.
Well, thank you both, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm very much looking forward to this webinar and sharing this particular formulation of synastry with your Serbian audience, because one of the things that's really inspired this in me is the fact that this attempt to create this new approach to synastry is because relationships are so important that it's tragic when you see people with too little knowledge, or maybe too much knowledge, too little wisdom, making very, very bad conclusions about their relationships, through astrology. So I'm really hoping that this can help to bring some good practical logic, to this important area.
Veoma mi je drago i želim samo da kažem da me je inspirisalo na ceo ovaj put istraživanja astrologije zapravo to što sam shvatio da su odnosi jako važni, ali isto tako da neki ljudi koji imaju mnogo znanja, a možda malo mudrosti, zapravo ne umeju da prepoznaju šta je ono što u tim odnosima je važno ili šta je ono što ih na neki način urušava.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Spomenuo i praktičnost zapravo ovog webinara koje je ono što je njemu vrlo važno, to je da bude primenljivo i praktično.
Yes, what's important for you is to be practical and also useful to everybody who attended. He can then implement in everybody's practice and see the results. I would say first in our own relationships, because we are...
Of course. Indeed.
Some kinds of relationships.
And that's why it starts with looking at each individual, because you've got to get that relationship right first, with oneself.
Exactly. I zato počinje sa analizom svake individue, jer prvo mora taj odnos da se ustanovi i da se prepozna. Okay, thank you so much, Richard, and see you soon, actually.
My pleasure, and thank you very much. Thank you both.
Ok, hvala svima i vidimo se uskoro, a do tada izvolite pratite naš YouTube kanal i aktualne tranzite koje pratimo i objavljujemo tumačenje.
Veliki pozdrav!